The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, yes, hi, good evening, and welcome to our weekly BDP webinar. Tonight we have skill number 5 from the GoPro, and our presenter tonight is going to be Adrian. And
All right.
Adrian, I'm sorry, now you're Adrian
Ruiz.
Ruiz.
Yeah.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. I know my name keeps popping up as George. I'm on George's computer tonight, and I'm actually really excited to share skill number 5, creating distributors and customers. And I love the GoPro book, and it's just been, it was funny. George had scheduled a meeting, and he double booked himself, and he said, I've really got to go do this meeting. Can you finish this skill? And I'm like, yep, sure thing. So I did make one minor change to the presentation that he had put together, and this is what you'll see right now. So you'll see, hey, you don't show up, you don't get credit. No, I'm kidding. But no, George and I are excited to be working this business together. Every single day we wake up and we just kind of, are excited that this is a lifestyle that we get to share. Our family is involved with the business that we do, and it's important for us to you stay united and work as a team, and it's just such a beautiful, it's just a blessing, honestly, to have Isagenix in our life. And I will say that we had a absolutely fabulous honeymoon. It was just like beyond a dream come true. We didn't want to come home. I mean, we loved Napa Valley. At one point, I think I said to George, can we just fly, the kids in and just stay? So we were having a blast in Napa, and now it's time to get back to work, and we're kind of all over the place and excited, and so it's been such a cool thing to come home and to be able to just jump back in where we left off. And so getting on with tonight's presentation, I just want to say that the GoPro book is just by far and away one of the best books, especially if you're brand new in the industry. And it just really simplifies things that maybe took some of us a little bit longer to learn, right, Alex?
Yes.
So, right? I know.
Right.
So we're going to dig in tonight with skill number 5. And at the end, we should have some time for questions, and we'll get started. All right. Oop, let me make sure I'm on there we go. All right. Important about skill number 5. That skill number 5, creating customers and business partners, really, it's a natural result of a good follow-up. And how often do we have lists of names sitting on our counter and we haven't quite made that follow-up call yet? And the reason for this skill literally becoming a skill, right, like all of his steps, is that it's something that you're going to work on. You're going to work on the follow-up. A lot of times I hear people say, gosh, I'd be so much further ahead if my follow-up was better. I'm like, lady, join the club. Okay, follow-up is a skill. It's something that we learn to do right away, and it's not always something that we're comfortable with. Okay, so Eric is going to make it a little bit easier for us to get more comfortable. So he says the key to success in this area is a combination of having good posture and asking good questions. Like, I know you guys are at home looking at that and saying, of course, it's obvious, right? The key to success in anything really is good posture and, of course, asking good questions, especially if you're in network marketing. But good posture is a big one. It's huge. I mean, I have lots of people who they get more nervous about doing the follow-up than they need to, and then they get into it and they just waffle. And I'm like, what happened to your posture? Don't freak out. You're just going to ask good questions. That's what follow-up is. And so, good posture means the way you carry yourself. Your words and actions will help your prospect feel more confident about joining your opportunity, or they will plant seeds of doubt. The only way you can plant seeds of doubt, guys, is if you don't come prepared with asking the right questions. And you look and sound more confident when you've practiced those, and that's why this is a skill. So, moving on. Oh, maybe my... No, what's happening here? There we go. The computer is just catching up to me. All right, so several important points. First, never get attached to the outcome. This is huge. I've had a few girls go executive in this last little bit, which so yay to like people like Kim Reese and Emily Stevenson's on her way, almost there. But the big thing that they were worried about is they were getting super attached to the outcome of these last phone calls, of these last, ways to create consultants. I mean, calling people is what we do while we're in the process of creating consultants. PK Smith says that all the time. So follow-up is calling. It's, when you get attached to that outcome, you can get way more nervous than you need to. So it's very important that you understand that it's not your job to convince anybody. It's only your job to ask the right questions. So when you are attached to the outcome, you will be nervous, right, or insecure, and your prospect will notice it. Your goal is to give the information by using the tools and your experience, and it is that simple, all right? So as we get into these tools and these skills, just remember that that you need to kind of let go of the idea that everyone's going to say yes right away, and realize that it's a process of, following up, maybe even more than this one time. You might have to come back and ask them some of the same questions again before they feel comfortable purchasing and getting started and becoming a customer or a business builder. I think we need to buy George a new computer. I'm now realizing what he's been complaining about. Okay, so we're still on several important points. Okay, so second, you will always assume that your prospect is ready to join, and that's the truth, but understanding that a part of that is, like he said, a natural process of following up. So it doesn't mean that everybody will join. It just means that you are sure about yourself, the company, and the products. All right? So what's nice about that is that, when you do that, more often that you follow up with people, the better you become at enrolling people and creating good customers and consultants. And I was working with them on my Monday morning call this morning. I have a business partner, Sherry Horvey, who places lots of ads for business builders in Isagenix, and she's got lots of people she has to follow up with, and her follow-up skills have become fantastic. She enrolled 7 people last week, and 2 of them were people that she had helped create consultants with the business packages and the President's Pack. So she messaged me this morning and said, I got my first paycheck from the first week I got started on, really following up, and that was $475, and she can't wait for the next one because it's going to be even bigger. But that's what that means, right, is that, the more you do it, the better you will get at it. Okay, so, all right, third. It was interesting to learn that people, right, you and I, they promote themselves as much as they promote the product or the opportunity. All right, so you want to talk about yourself. You want to tell people your why. You want to get them emotionally invested so that they will feel free to share why they would be emotionally invested when you go in to ask them those questions. So what I mean by that is they help the prospect make the decision by saying, you get me, right? I'm going to be doing this with you. We're going to be doing this together. A really great line that George taught me in the beginning is he would say things like, you and I together can earn a fortune, and talk about that, what that means to you, okay? And so when they promote themselves, it isn't like, I'm going to do everything for you. It just means that you're here for them. You're guiding. You're in business together. You're not alone in this, all right? I think that's a huge deal is, letting people know that they're not alone when they get started in this. A lot of people may have had previous experiences like George talked about in skill number 4 where, he says, oh, you must have a story. Tell me about that. And they go in and they tell these stories of, oh, I had somebody enroll me and they didn't even tell me about the business. And, I wish that they would have, helped me understand better that I could be getting paid, things like that. So you want to let people talk in that way. So fourth, they are always prepared, and I mean always. So if you look in my purse or where I keep my computer on a regular basis, I have enrollment forms. I have training materials. So if they want to know more about the product, I have brochures on the shake, or I have brochures on the 21 ways to cleanse your body, or I have the getting started right in your business, those kind of things on hand right away so that you have material to give to them. And if it's maybe a third or fourth time you're following up, especially in person, maybe you bring them an Eric Worre book, to say, hey, if it's the business you're worried about, why didn't you look at somebody else who's teaching other people how to become professionals in this industry and why it's so important? And that way they have everything they need, right, you and I, to get a person started right on the spot. And so here I have written down applications, training materials, etc. All right? And I just feel like that's really important. Another really important training material is to have a notebook on hand and a pen. Well, why would that be important? Because if they just say, hey, yay, I'm ready to get going, you're going to need to do a little bit of, writing down and showing them the comp plan, which we'll talk about in a minute. So fifth, they ask a question, right? Or question after question after question. And they're great listeners. I remember the first time I listened to George do a really in-depth follow-up with a networking friend of his that we had met in person in Las Vegas. And we're sitting across the table, and I am like, mum's the word. I'm just soaking it up. George did not stop talking. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, how does he keep going like this? Is so time consuming. But it was the conversation that they were having. That was him following up with his friend. And they were going back and forth and back and forth. George would ask a question, he would answer it. He would ask a question, George would answer it. George would ask another question, he'd answer it. He would ask another question, he'd answer it. And it was this back and forth game of his friend becoming more and more comfortable with, if this was the decision he wanted to make. And it was actually kind of a really cool thing to watch. And, I always challenge my teammates, to do three-way calls, not because, you might not know everything, especially if you've been in the business for a while, but that's because it helps to get a second opinion, a third-party credibility, and it's easier to learn faster when you're working with your leaders, okay? And you can listen in on what they say and how they do it. And a lot of times we'll be saying exactly what Eric is suggesting. So we act like a consultant, right? Helping a person with a problem. The best consultants in the world would have to ask a bunch of questions before they can offer a solution. I think about any time you've ever been to a doctor's office or anything like that, they don't just prescribe you something right away, same with personal training. I don't just prescribe a bunch of, series of stretches right away or anything like that, or workouts. No, I'm asking them lots of questions about themselves and what's most important to them for them to accomplish, and then that way have a better idea of what to offer, right? So network marketing professionals use questions as their most powerful tool, because then we can put this into consultant mode, right, where we can appropriately do that. Several of you have probably been in businesses where you've had to ask people several questions before you can really serve them, all right? And it's the same thing here in Isagenix, where as a network marketing, we really want to be able to serve people appropriately in the right way. So, we'll get into it too, especially when it comes to making money. So the more you connect, present, and follow up, you will become better at all these points. And that's one thing I really gave a shout out to my business partner, Sari Horvey, because she has become so good over the phone as she did it. And she made a good point as our guest speaker on today's call. And if you want to listen to that call, you can go under our group on Facebook. It's called Isa Hotties, and it's right there. You can listen to the call that she did this morning. But she said, I didn't realize how good I was getting until I realized how many people I had called. So good point there, right? You must become a master of questions. You never ask, what do you think? Or, it's just not a good enough. It's what do you think isn't good. Their brain goes everywhere, instead of asking specific questions. You don't go to the doctor's office and then he says to you, so what do you think? He's like, no, this is what I suggest based on all my previous questions. So we're going to get into questions. And if you want to pull out your notepad and a piece of paper or take some snapshots of the screens, I highly recommend it, especially if you're in the moment. I know a lot of times we say, the webinars are recorded and you're welcome to go back and look through them anytime you want. But I find that it's easier for me to take notes in the moment. So get ready for that. All right. We already said this. You must become a master of questions. Let's get to the questions. All right. So when you're following up with somebody, you get on the phone and they've watched their video, what did you like about that video, or did it make sense to you? Well, a lot of times if you're showing a video, I mean, are you toxic? That's just a no-brainer these days. People know we live in a toxic environment. And if you show them, enterprising woman or something like that, what's going to make sense to them is that this business, really it should be simple. It's meant to be simple, especially with all those women and their busy lifestyle. So did it make sense to you is a great question. How about, what did you like best about what you just saw? Or, when they answer you, you want to say something like, pretty exciting, isn't it? What did you like best about what you just saw is a very specific question. That's not asking, what did you just, what do you think? It's saying, what did you like best? And then that's a great question to ask, because then you can respond with something like, it's pretty exciting. That's why I'm calling you, right? Can you see how this could be an opportunity for you? I mean, don't you think that should produce a pretty straightforward yes or no or maybe, I'm not sure yet, and they'll get to you're getting closer and closer to hitting the nail on the head where it becomes more personal, right? Can you see how this could be an opportunity for you? So that's a really great one. And, thought-provoking for sure. Some people might say no right away. I mean, who knows? But, and then at that point, you don't waste either of each other's time, especially trying to convince somebody that this is exactly what they have to do. No, you're asking the right questions, so you're getting the right responses. And I personally love, what do you like the best? Okay, and that's been really useful for me and for my team and most everybody who uses it. What did you like the best? Pretty much sums it up. Let me see, what did I like the best? I liked that guy Jimmy Smith was making over $200,000 per month. I like that the best. Okay, I mean, they'll be very specific with you, and you want to say it again. What else do you like? And well, I also liked the product addresses health. Okay, great. The reason is because those questions give a strong clue of their main interest, right? What do you like the best? They're either going to say, I'm like really interested in the business, or I'm like really interested in the product, and then you know where to go. So Eric will then suggest for you to ask, from a scale of 1 to 10, where do you feel you are now? So if they were, excited about the business, you might say, on a scale from a scale of 1 to 10, where do you feel you are now in your business goals? On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you feel you are now in your health goals? Asking that, it's suggesting that it will be more obvious from their number that they either need more information before they will make a decision, or they are leaning toward getting started, okay? So once they can wrap their mind and give themselves a number, then they're going to be more specific with you about how they feel about if Isagenix is the solution for that or not. And it becomes a really beautiful process. I like that question from a scale of 1 to 10 after the follow-up of what did you like the best. And it just, it simplifies everything. Moving on, hopefully. Or not. Here we go. All right, getting to my favorite part, the 4-question close. Now, this is cool because when I went to Eric Worre's event in November last year, we went through these. We actually did this whole 4-part close working with other partners, which was kind of neat because I didn't feel very confident, actually, that I understood this because I had just read the Eric Worre book, like literally before I went there. And I was doing the 4-question close with other networkers in the room, some of them who made, way more money than me, and some people that I realized had put way more time into their business and was not making the kind of money that I was making, even though I wasn't very confident with these. And they were. In fact, one of the guys that I was working with was very confident with this close, but I think it's mindset when it gets down to that, and talking to enough people, okay, and having the right company. Well, we have it all. Most of you who come to these webinars, it's because you have a business mindset and you're ready to make money now. You're not going to be one of those people who procrastinates. You're going to learn these 4-question closes. Same thing, we have the right company. A lot of them had really poor pay plans, and it was obvious, okay? So, but we're all doing the same thing. So it matters where you're at. It matters what you're teaching your people. And it matters that you learn these skills. So question number 1, based on what you've just seen, if you were to get started with this company on a part-time basis, approximately how much would you need to earn per month in order to make this worth your time? That's a pretty specific question. There's really not a whole lot getting around that, right? Instead of asking questions like, how would you like to make 10,000 a month, or, we don't want you doing that, all right? We want you to let them decide how much money they'd like to earn per month, all right, in order to make this worth their time. And I just really feel like that's such a complete, you're going to get such a complete answer. There's no guessing in that, all right? And that's what that's what learning this skill is about. Instead of prescribing what you think they want, just ask them what it would take to make it worth their time and wait for their answer. Some people might say 10,000 a month, but if you assume it and they're only making, $1,000 a week, $10,000 a month is going to be a long shot for them, right? So you need to learn these questions, right, based on what you've just seen. If you were to get started with this company on a part-time basis, you can even say Isagenix at that point, right? With Isagenix on a part-time basis, approximately how much would you need to earn per month in order to make this worth your time? And wait for a response. Every time I've used this, I get a direct response. Oh, I don't know, I'm thinking maybe, $2,000 extra per month. Oh my gosh, that would just be the best. Or, some of them, I would just like to make any extra money. Okay, well, be a little bit specific. Well, maybe $500 extra? Done. Let's do it, and you get into these next qualifying questions. Question number 2 is gets even a little bit more in depth on what they're willing to do for that, so that we're getting them to think about what they're going to commit, all right? So question number 2, approximately how many hours could you commit each week to develop that kind of income? Write this down. Approximately how many hours could you commit each week to develop that kind of income? Are you asking yourself this question too? Because it's really good, all right? How much time are you devoting to your Isagenix business right now? Think about that, right? How much more could you if you were more scheduled? Think about that. So they have to go inside their head, just like you are right now, and check their mental calendar to see how much time they would invest to get that kind of money. That's where you want them. Getting them to do their own mental investigating is right where you want them, because it becomes their idea. All of a sudden, they can start fitting Isagenix into their schedule because they realize what they'd be willing to do to get even that extra $500 per month. And that's exactly where the excitement starts with question number 3, because then we even go a step further and we start talking about, what they'd be willing to do. So, question number 3, how many months would you work those kind of hours in order to develop that kind of income? How many months would you work those kind of hours in order to develop that kind of income? And they might say, gosh, if I put in, an hour a day, 5 days a week for 90 days, you know what? I think I might be able to do it. And you're like, yep, you're right. So the question makes them think about their level of commitment. If they really want the income from question number 1, if they really want that $500, dollars, or that $1,000 or that $10,000 per month, right? It's just beautiful. The 4-question close is just so complete. And then, then they start, realizing this is a serious business. And, the nice part about this industry is that you can take it as seriously as you want to take it, but what time and energy you put into it is what comes out of it. So you want them to be aware of that as they get started. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. They're going to have to schedule time to work their business, right? Question number 4, if I could show you how to develop an income of, let's say $1,000 per month extra, working, 1 hour for 1 hour a day, for 5 days a week or whatever, over the course of 90 days, okay, or 3 months, would you be ready to get started? So see, you take it back to them and you put it like a mirror in front of their face, right? If I could show you how to do this, now I'm getting serious with you. If I could show you how to develop this kind of an income per month, working this many hours a week over the course of this many months, are you ready yet? And most of the time you'll get a positive answer to this question. Of course, so sure, I'm ready. I mean, they already figured it out in their mind. And when people say, sure, show me how, now it's your time to shine, right? You're going to start showing, right? like you said you were going to as a consultant, and you're going to pull out your compensation plan, and you're going to sketch out a reasonable game plan to achieve their goals. And in Isagenix, I always start with the bonus structure, the ACMDE, the Associate Consultant Manager Director Executive, or in other words, the Executive Rank Advancement Bonuses. And then I finish with the Power of Two, or what Jimmy Smith calls the progression of numbers. George will tell you to flip this. He'll say, I always show the progression of numbers, and then I go into how that builds in the Isagenix pay plan, and really either way works, as long as you're getting the information out there. And the progression of numbers is huge. In fact, well, George and I did a Super Saturday event in San Francisco this past weekend when, at the end of our honeymoon, we had lots of people just freak out by George showing them the progression of numbers. And we have that on the howtogetgoing.com site. I even have it pinned at the top of my group page on Facebook. There's a video by Jimmy Smith explaining the progression of numbers and how, putting time into this business creates a huge residual income. And people, Art Jonick always says, he says, if people understood the value of residual income, they'd walk through a brick wall to get it. And it's been true for me. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, but in Isagenix it can with the ACMDE. You can have powerful, powerful results using the executive bonus, rank advancement bonuses, and the progression of numbers. And that's where you get to shine. And you get to come in finally after all those 4 questions and really show people how they can earn the big bucks, okay? And that's how you get good customers and good business partners, because if you do it right, if you do your job right in that moment, they'll understand that, things like ordering products every single month is the glue that holds their business together. Staying on auto ship gets them a 6% unlimited commission all the way down under everything that comes underneath them once they get their 2. And, just knowing that's a huge deal. I'm going back to this, example that I had earlier with my girlfriend Sherry, who enrolled her high school girlfriend over Facebook and helped her get her 2 right away, and then helped her friend get her 2. And it was just one of those things where she did her job right. She shared all the information, not part of it, but all of it, once she asked the appropriate questions. So to be a good consultant, right, there are rare occasions when people give you unrealistic numbers. They might say they want $10,000 a month working 2 hours a week for 1 month. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. All right? And if you face this situation, you act as a consultant. You make the right suggestion, right? And you say, I'm sorry, but your expectations are way too high. You can get to $10,000 a month, but it will take more hours and more months than you're willing to commit. If you're willing to change those expectations, we can talk. And oftentimes being a good consultant allows you to, become also a really great at the takeaway. Not because you have to, get really good at that. You don't really need to. It's just that one of those things where if people are setting unrealistic expectations because they've heard unrealistic things in this industry due to height and not proper understanding, it's your job to come in and set the bar where it needs to be and let them know that this is actually a serious business, and what they're willing to put into it is what they'll get out of it. So, 2 hours a week for 30 days is not going to produce you $10,000 a month. Even Lynn Hagedorn will say that. she didn't do that. Okay, she did. She'll tell you about how she made sacrifices, with her kids and her family to work longer hours the first 90 days because she knew she wouldn't have to work as hard after that once she set herself up for success. So there's a good example. I'm almost sure that Lynn Hagedorn wouldn't overpromise somebody and underdeliver. And that's not what we're about. We're about appropriate consulting. And in Isagenix, we want to make sure that we are good stewards of our business, and we are confident where we're at. And I think also if it gets to that point where somebody says something ridiculous like that to you, don't laugh at them or anything like that. Just, let them know, like, hey, that's, you're not going to do that, especially maybe if you don't have the skills of Lynn Hagedorn. You haven't been through other companies. So be realistic about that, but let them know what the expectations are if they put the time in. So this skill will take practice, right? Skill number 5 takes practice. You want to maybe print this out, or print out Eric Worre's, skill number 5 in the book, and read it over and over again. Practice with somebody in your home. Practice with a close friend. Let them know, hey, I'm new in this business and I'm practicing how to help people better understand what I do. You could really actually enroll quite a few people doing that, just practicing the skill, because it is a skill that will serve you for the rest of your career. And it's one that once you do lock it in, you really could just, really kill it, because you'll be that shining example of all your teammates who will join you, because you're duplicatable and you're consistent. So if you're tired of having too many people just thinking about maybe someday joining, right, and there's not enough taking action, this skill is the skill you're missing. This skill is the one that will help. It's the one that allows you to get more realistic with your prospects, and let them know, hey, this is how I'm going to teach you to be a good customer and or a great business partner. And you let them know, like, I'm going through this with you because I am locking arms with you. Like Eric Worre said, we're doing this together. I want to know that you understand everything outright and appropriate. So that's why I'm asking you these questions. So that is it for, I think we might add one more second, but I'd love to open the lines up and yep, that was it. And see if there's anybody who has any questions. I know down in the bottom of the message center, you can message in any questions you might have about this skill. And yeah, I don't know if I can see those or not, but I probably can't.
Well, Adrianne, don't worry.
Yeah.
I'll let you know if
Okay.
somebody has any questions. And just a quick reminder for those of you that are new on the webinar, the top right of your screen, you'll see the GoToWebinar control panel, and there you can just enter any question you have on the questions or chat box. And so far, what we have is, great presentation, comments, and so on, and congratulations, and
Oh,
that.
thank you.
And let me tell you, Adrianne, it's been a fantastic presentation, and it's just one of these things that every time I see, these skills from the GoPro book, because although I've been in this business for a long time, the GoPro book has been the one that has actually simplified everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
made it so easy. It has set parameters and so on for us to follow. And the way that you explain it, and George has done so in the prior webinars, it just, it's amazing how easy this business is. It might not be simple in the sense that you have to do something, but just
Yeah.
following those steps is what makes a difference. And today's presentation on follow-up is probably where I know where I fall short most of the time is in the follow-up. I get all enthused, I start calling people and so on, and I make my notes and everything, and then the follow-up is where I'm weak. And here
Right.
you gave us, that 4-question close is a fantastic way to help us with the follow-up.
Well, it would be a great skill for people who are just getting started out of all of the skills, because a lot of times people are so excited when they're brand new, they can get a lot of people interested, and then all of a sudden they get nervous to make those follow-up calls after the videos. So this is one thing that, having maybe a training session with your team on, or, having them watch the recorded webinar before they make their follow-up calls lets them, practice a little bit beforehand, so it's not as, nerve-wracking as you, call somebody back again to see, hey, are you ready now? Are you serious now? And that's what I love about it too. But you're right. I think the biggest thing for most of us is learning the follow-up. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, and you definitely, have helped us understand how to do the follow-up correctly. I see here Paul has a question. And his
Okay.
question is, what would be a good goal of time to spend a day for those that work 40 hours or more a week?
Well, so okay, so that's very personal, right? And so that's why if it's for a lot of times people who are working 40 plus hours a week, they're gonna start this business very part time unless they lost their job and they need to get going right away and they're looking at replacing an income for a family, But otherwise, if it's something that they're just trying to supplement right now, to make some extra cash and to get themselves started, I would say 2 hours a day. I would say minimum 2 hours a day. And a lot of times I think what happens with somebody who's working that much is maybe splitting that up, maybe doing an hour on a lunch break if you have a lunch break, and an hour, after dinner, after you, especially if you have a family, spend some time with, the wife and kids for a second, and then say, I'm going to go work for a little bit and do some follow-up messaging maybe online through Facebook. And if it's late, especially if it's late, you'll get a lot of people who are willing to message you back online, and then you can schedule a call with them the following day during the daytime during another lunch hour, or that's what I suggest at least, 2 hours a day minimum. You don't want to overwhelm somebody when they first get started, but if they're excited and they're ready to go and they've got a lot of people they want to talk to, then, you can switch that up. If it's 2 hours a day, great, or it can be, 2 hours, 2 days a week, and then you do like 5 on a Saturday or 5 on a Sunday when they're not working their regular business hours. I think that answered the question. So.
Yeah, and actually, let me just point out, my wife Marlena and I, when we get started,
Mhm.
we also got started part time, and it took a little while to adjust to where we would feel comfortable with, and I came up with. I knew that it wouldn't take me more than 5 minutes to make that first contact. So instead of
Right.
lumping it all
Mhm.
together in a couple of hours a day, every hour on the hour, I would
Mhm.
spend 5 minutes working on that. So
Mhm.
that worked
Yeah. Yeah.
quite well for us. And by the way,
Yeah,
Marlena
if you
says
have a
the
job
person.
where you can, get away and do that, then yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
yeah, that definitely does make a difference. But you can always work it into the
Yeah.
breaks and so on. And by the way, Marlena
Right.
just says this was a great presentation. Let's see if we have
She's
any other
biased. She's my
comments.
friend. Just kidding.
Yes.
Love you,
Well,
Marlena. Mhm.
I tell you one thing, this is a business where it is amazing how much help we can get from our upline if we ask for it. A lot of
Mhm.
people are always afraid to ask for help or so on, and it's not that the upline will do the business for
Right.
them, but we will help you, we will guide you, and so on. And I know George did that for me, when I got started. So
Yeah.
let's see, actually.
Absolutely. Just knowing that, I think, makes the business a little bit less frightening as well, especially with this skill follow-up. Making sure that you call your upline or somebody you trust in the business to kind of help guide you a little bit as well, especially if you want to practice maybe using this skill before you go do the work yourself. But yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned the word frightening, it's like in many businesses,
Yeah.
there's a lot of liability if things go wrong in many people's
Mhm.
works.
Yeah.
Here, what's the worst thing that can actually happen? That somebody says no or not now. you know, that to me is
Such a
and
good
and
point.
yeah, and that gets you so much closer to the yes that we're looking for, because we need to understand not everybody's going to say yes. Uh, for
Mhm.
every X amount of people, we get no's. And if we don't get those no's, we'll
Mhm.
never get those yeses. So,
That's true. I want to touch on that because in my business, I would get a lot of no's, but a lot of times, this was before Isagenix, when I was in sales, a lot of times I would take it very personally, like, right, get attached to the outcome, like Eric Worre is warning us about. But that's because it was a reflection of, was I producing what I needed to produce for my company, right? And then, so it was frightening to me a little bit if I didn't go out and make that sale or make that close, or, it was frightening to me because it was a different kind of rejection. And Isagenix, you want to, especially if this is a secondary income for you that you're building up, like starting at part-time, you want to pull that pressure off of you for a second and understand that this the attrition and rejection is a part of what we do in this business. It's what we call normal. And getting those right, like you said, gets you closer to that yes, but it's not going to kill you right away. I mean, it's not like your boss is going to call you up and say, hey, how come you're not producing? So you don't need to be frightened. You just need to get out there and realize that when you're guiding and leading with a mission of, locking arms and getting committed to each other's lifestyles and to each other's health and wealth, that's when you build a phenomenal organization and a team, is by making it about them. And that's why the questions are so important. And so it shouldn't be frightening. It should be exciting, and you should be enthusiastic to want to ask these questions, as a good consultant, because it's one more person that you can really, quite literally, transform the state of their well-being. And it's just, one of those things that I think, just about community.
Well, that's very, very true. And guys, just a reminder, we are about to close the call. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them in for Adrian. And meanwhile, Adrian, I don't know if you have any announcements or anything. Next week, we'll have probably George or you doing skill number 6. So we're getting
6.
close
That's great.
to the end of our series.
Yeah, we're
And
getting closer, and it's more exciting as we get through the book together, and that's why we're doing this. I mean, I think it's really neat. I think a lot of people are just like, go read the book, which we may have done at first, and then having gone to a few of the events, we're like, we really need to work through this with our team and our organization. So make sure next Monday you have your teammates on here. Make sure that they're learning with you, and that way that takes a little bit of the pressure off for you. So, anyways, it's exciting. We'll see you next week. Oh, I do want to announce something. I have a woman that I met out in California. She's absolutely phenomenal. She's just a little rock star. She's a 1-star right now. She's a dermatologist, and she's going to be sharing tips on how to build with Rejuvenity and what her business is how her business is moving because of that. And I have the number and everything put out on Facebook and my group Isagenix, and I will post that out on BDP social media as well for any of you guys that would like to invite maybe anyone in skincare on the line. Somebody maybe from Mary Kay, or maybe somebody who is an esthetician or is a dermatologist themselves like she is. That'd be a great one to get on the phone, because what I love about Lindsay Byrne, her name is Lindsay Miller Byrne, and she's a mother of 2 and a wife, and she still runs a full-time practice as well as building. She's a 1-star. I mean, it's just phenomenal. So get them on the line to listen in on that, because she's going okay, let me start over. My name's Adrianne. She's going to be sharing how she's building a business around the products, and she's very business minded. So what I like about her being in our product spotlight is that she's going to be talking about Rejuvenity skincare, but yes, she is including the business. And it's very important that we always remember that they are one. The product and the business are one. Whatever you piece out, still, the product and the business are one, and that's how we build phenomenal incomes like she is. So if you want to get on that, that will be this Wednesday. Sorry, not next week. This Wednesday, so 2 days from now. And it'll be 10:15 Mountain Time, 9:15 Pacific, so 12 or noon, 12:15 Eastern. And you guys can invite people on to listen in on that. And serious, I would call like anyone in skincare and be like, hey, you've got to come listen to this powerhouse lady talk about, what was the difference for her. So there we go. That was my one announcement for this week.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Adrian, and thank you each and every single one of you for joining us today and sharing your time with us here, learning about the GoPro skills. And we look forward to seeing you all then next Monday at the same time. Have a great evening, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, Alex. Good night.